It only took 5 seconds to kill everything I thought was real. It was supposed to be a normal Saturday. I'd picked up some bread, cheese, and a bottle of her favorite red wine. She always liked something bold and dry. Said it made her feel grown up, whatever that meant. I just wanted to surprise her. We've been distant lately, colder than usual. But I chalked it up as stress to life. 2 jobs, 2 kids, a mortgage. That's what marriage looks like after a decade, right? I walked out of the store, paper bag in hand, when I saw it. Her car, her Toyota, parked toward the back of the lot, half in the shade. I knew it by the dent on the left fender and the kid's stickers on the back windshield. That car had picked up our kid from daycare, been through road trips, late-night runs for ice cream. It was ours. But she wasn't alone. She was in the passenger seat, laughing, that head-tilted, full-teeth laugh I hadn't seen in months. And then, without even a pause, she leaned over. One hand on his neck. A kiss. It wasn't a friendly goodbye. It was slow, familiar. Her eyes closed like it was the most natural thing in the world. And me? I stood there like an idiot with a stupid bottle of wine in my hand, watching my wife kiss another man in the car we raised our kids in. I didn't scream, didn't charge over, didn't throw the bag like in the movies. I just stood there, swallowing the heat that rose in my chest like acid. And then I turned around. No words, no scene, just silence and steps. My hands were shaking. My heart wasn't. Something had just died. I didn't know it then, but that moment would split my life in two, before I saw, and after I knew. The walk back to my car felt like hours. Each step echoed. My hand clenched tighter around the paper bag until the corners of the wine bottle dug into my palm. I stared down at it like it was mocking me. What the hell was I thinking? Wine and cheese for a woman who just kissed someone else like that? I didn't drive off right away. I sat in the driver's seat, keys in the ignition, staring out the windshield without really seeing anything. My brain was trying to reboot like it had been hit too hard. That kiss played in my mind like a looped clip I couldn't pause. The way she smiled before it, the way he touched her knee after. It was all so intimate, so natural, not some drunken mistake. This was practiced, rehearsed, safe. I started thinking back. Had it really been months since we last touched like that? I couldn't even remember the last time she kissed me with both eyes closed. The last time she grabbed me like she wanted me. Not out of obligation. Not because the kids were asleep and it was scheduled intimacy night. But out of pure, messy want. Hell, even our arguments had started to feel staged. Like we were going through the motions, saying our lines. Was I blind? Or just numb? A week ago, she came home late from book club, and I joked, "Did you solve the mystery?" She laughed it off, said they ended up just drinking wine and gossiping. I asked who was there. She hesitated, then rattled off 3 names I didn't recognize. That should have been a flag. It was a flag. I just buried it under my own denial. We weren't always like this. There was a time I would rush home just to see her smile. A time she would text me during the day with dumb memes, or thinking of you messages that felt like sunshine in the middle of a gray workday. We had history, a shared playlist on Spotify, an inside joke about squirrels, a scar on her knee from our honeymoon hike. We were more than parents, more than schedules and bills. At least I thought we were. I looked at the rearview mirror. I looked at myself. My own damn face. I didn't even recognize it. Pale, stiff, my mouth drawn tight, like I was biting back something sharp. And then I did something I'd never done before. I cried. In public. In broad daylight. In a grocery store parking lot. Not loud. Just a silent stream of salt and disbelief. That was the beginning. Of what? I didn't know yet. But I wasn't the same man who walked into that store. When I walked through the front door, the silence was heavier than usual. I kicked off my shoes, set the paper bag on the kitchen counter, and stared at it for a few seconds. The bottle of wine tilted slightly against the bread, like it was trying to fall over and put itself out of its misery. I knew how it felt. She wasn't home. Of course she wasn't. She'd texted an hour ago, running a bit late. Don't wait up. I remember looking at that heart emoji and feeling sick. How many times had she sent that same emoji to him? Was it just autopilot? A way to keep up appearances? I opened the bottle anyway. I didn't even bother with a glass. Just twisted the cap off and took a long drink straight from it. It was bitter, like everything else now. I wandered into the living room. Our wedding photo was still on the shelf. Her smile looked genuine there. I couldn't stop looking at her eyes in the picture. Did she know even back then that she was capable of this? Or did it happen slowly, like rust? I sat on the couch, just sat there, staring at nothing, letting the room settle around me like dust. The clock ticked. I could hear the refrigerator humming. I could hear the wind outside brushing the leaves against the house. Everything was quiet except my mind. I should have raged. I should have thrown something. But instead I just felt hollow, like someone had scooped out everything inside me and left the shell upright, just for show. Time passed. I don't know how long. Maybe an hour. Maybe 3. At some point, I started pacing. Back and forth. Living room to kitchen. Over and over. I wasn't thinking, I was just moving. Like if I stayed still too long, I'd crumble. I thought about texting her. Just writing, "I saw you." But I didn't. Because then she'd know. And once she knew that I knew, things would change. And I wasn't ready yet. I needed more. I needed truth. Proof. Something real that didn't leave room for gaslighting or spin. I knew how she could twist things. She was always good with words. No, if I was going to confront this, it had to be on my terms. So I waited. She came home around midnight. The sound of her key in the lock made me freeze. She stepped in, dropped her purse on the bench by the door, and said, "Hey," like nothing had happened. Like she hadn't just been in a car with someone else's mouth on hers. I watched her slip off her coat and walk into the kitchen. She noticed the wine bottle, half gone. "Oh, you opened it," she said lightly. "Rough day." I nodded. She leaned in and kissed me on the cheek. And I stood there like a statue, trying not to flinch. That kiss burned. It wasn't affection anymore. It was insult. "I'm gonna shower," she said. "Want a joint?" The room shifted. I turned to look at her. For a second, just 1 second, I saw the woman I married. Standing there, hair messy from the wind, keys still in her hand. Offer me a normal night. A rewind. But that version of her didn't exist anymore. I'd seen too much. "I'm good," I said quietly. She shrugged and walked away. The bathroom door closed. The water turned on. I could hear it hit the tiles like rain. I sat back down on the couch, staring at the hallway she'd just disappeared into. And that was when I decided I wasn't going to accuse her. I was going to observe. Let her dig her own grave while I collected the shovels. That night, I barely slept. I lay in bed next to her, listening to her breathe, watching the soft blue light of her phone reflect on the wall. She kept scrolling, texting. She didn't know I was awake. She didn't know I was already gone. In the morning, she made pancakes like nothing was wrong. I watched her flip them with ease, humming softly to some song in her head. She laughed at a meme on her phone. I asked what it was. She said just something from work. Work. That word made my skin crawl. At breakfast, I asked what her day looked like. She told me she had a strategy meeting, then lunch with a client. Late night, I asked casually, "Maybe. Depends how the meeting goes." She smiled. That same smile she used on strangers, waiters, neighbors. The one that didn't reach her eyes. I nodded. That was the last normal breakfast we had. Because after she left, I stayed home. I called in sick, and I started digging. I started with the photos on our shared iCloud, but there was nothing. She'd been smart. Careful. Too careful. So I checked the family computer, the one she never touched anymore. And it was clean too. But something in me said, there's more. That night, after she fell asleep, I waited an hour, then slipped her phone out of her hand. Locked. I held it for a second, thinking about all the memories stored inside it, and how many of them didn't involve me anymore. I knew the passcode. She hadn't changed it. I went in, and I swear to God, I wish I hadn't. It didn't happen all at once. I didn't wake up the next morning ready to blow up my life. I didn't rage or scream or even confront her. What I did was quieter, colder, smarter maybe. I got methodical, because there's a difference between suspicion and certainty. And I wanted certainty, not for a courtroom, not for our friends, for me. So when she kissed me goodbye that next morning, my lips barely moved. She didn't notice. She didn't ask. She just grabbed her bag, said she had a meeting, and left with the same faint perfume she always wore when she was trying to impress someone. And I sat at the kitchen table, staring at my coffee until it went cold. I wasn't going to let myself spiral again. Not today. Today, I was going to learn the truth. I started small. Her laptop wasn't password protected. That felt strange in hindsight, because everything else in her life was under lock and key. I clicked open the browser and started checking the history. It was mostly work-related, a few news sites, some shopping. Then I checked the email. At first, it was normal, messages from colleagues, notifications from stores. But in the trash folder, there was something different. A reservation confirmation. Dinner for two. Wine bar. Thursday night. The same night, she told me she had to stay late to finish up a budget presentation. The reservation was under a different name. See, Warren. I didn't recognize it, but it stuck in my brain like a splinter. I searched the name. LinkedIn showed me a man in his 40s, regional director at her company. Clean cut. Confident. Divorced. I remember the way she had laughed that night when she got home. Said she was just tipsy from wine with coworkers. That they'd blown off steam. I remembered how she didn't look at me when she said it. I closed the laptop and sat in silence for a long time. Then I opened it again and made a burner email. I sent the confirmation and screenshots to myself. It felt like I was stepping outside my body. I needed more. The next day, I bought a small GPS tracker. I told myself it was wrong. That was crossing a line. But then I remembered her hand on his neck. That kiss. That smile. I put the tracker under the back seat of her car the next morning. That night, she said she had to work late again. I watched her move across the map. Not to the office. To a boutique hotel 20 minutes from downtown. She stayed for 3 hours. I didn't text. I didn't call. I didn't cry. I just saved the location log and closed the app. The next morning, I asked how her meeting went. She said it dragged. That her team was chaotic. She rolled her eyes. Made a joke about needing a drink. She didn't flinch. I started noticing the lies more after that. Little ones. The ones that never mattered until they started to mean everything. New clothes she never wore around me. Receipts she tossed too quickly. Lingerie that showed up in the laundry that I had never seen. Deleted calendar events. I started a folder on my computer. Labeled it Truth. I filled it with screenshots, notes, timestamps. A paper trail. A timeline. Evidence. Not to destroy her. Not even to use against her. Just so that one day, when she said it wasn't a big deal, or it only happened once, I could open the folder and remind myself I wasn't crazy. One night, while she slept, I opened her phone. She'd left it on the nightstand. Same code. I held my breath and tapped it in. There were messages. Not a lot. She deleted most of them, but some are still there. Enough. Photos. One of her in a hotel mirror. Lingerie. His reply. Can't wait to take that off you. My heart thudded. My mouth went dry. She had smiled in the photo. A real smile. I hadn't seen that smile in months. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. The next morning, she asked if I wanted pancakes. I said sure. She made them. Flipped them perfectly. Hummed like nothing was wrong. She kissed my cheek. I forced a smile. I was gathering my silence like ammunition. Waiting. Because I knew the moment was coming. The day I'd open my mouth and let everything out. But not yet. I needed one more thing. And it was coming. There are certain things you do in a relationship that you never imagine yourself doing. Like going through your partner's drawers. Like checking the Bluetooth history in her car. Like learning how to install a tracking app without being detected. But once trust breaks, those things stop feeling extreme. They start to feel necessary. I waited until she was in the shower that Thursday morning. Her phone was on the nightstand. Her main phone. She always kept a second one in her purse. She said it was for work. That was the one I wanted. I didn't rush. I moved slow, careful, like I was defusing a bomb. I opened her purse, the black leather one she never let anyone else touch, the one that had once held snacks and crayons for our kids, but now smelled faintly of perfume and hotel soap. It was there, bottom corner, wrapped in a silk scarf. She hadn't even powered it off. No lock screen, just a text thread open, and a photo. Her legs, a hotel bed, his hand in the frame. Not touching her. Just there. Close. Familiar. I stared at it for a full minute before I realized I wasn't breathing. It wasn't the image that broke me. It was the fact that she left it open. That she felt safe enough to not even lock it. There were dozens of messages. Some short. Some long. Some deleted, but still recoverable through the messaging app's archive. I screenshotted what I could. Sent them to the burner email I had set up the night before. She texted him about me. Called me the wall. He doesn't see me anymore, she wrote. He's too comfortable. No mention of what she wasn't doing. The distance. The silence. The nights she chose her phone over me. I read until my hand shook. He called her his little escape. She called him her reward. 12 years, 2 kids, 1 mortgage, 1,000 memories, all reduced to inconvenience. I heard the shower turn off. I locked the phone, wrapped it back in a scarf, placed it in her bag exactly the way I found it. I left the bathroom light on to make it look like I'd been brushing my teeth. She came out in her towel, smiling like nothing happened. I kissed her on the cheek. She didn't notice I was shaking. I went to work that day, but I don't remember a thing about it. Not the traffic. Not the code I was supposed to write. Not the sandwich I ate at my desk. All I remember is staring at that inbox, rereading what I'd sent to myself. The screenshots. The photo. Her words. He doesn't see me anymore. Maybe I didn't. Maybe somewhere between bedtime routines and grocery runs and birthday parties, I stopped looking at her the way I used to. But she stopped looking at me first. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed next to her, staring at the ceiling, listening to the faint rhythm of her breath. It used to calm me. Now it made me feel like a stranger in my own home. I got up, went to the couch, and opened my laptop. I made a folder. I labeled it, If I Ever Forget, and I started dumping everything in there. Screenshots, messages, notes, even my own thoughts, just in case there came a day where she cried and begged and said it didn't mean anything. I needed to remember it did. A week later, I found a receipt, stuffed in her coat pocket. I wasn't even looking for it. I was just moving it off the hallway chair. But it fell out. Hotel. Same chain as before. Same day, she said she was working late on strategy planning. I stared at the receipt like it was a confession note. I added it to the folder. I started noticing other things, too. The way she dressed differently on certain days. A little more effort. A little more scent. How she kept a different brand of makeup in the car. And how, when she came home, she never smelled like the same woman who left that morning. One night, she fell asleep on the couch, phone unlocked in her hand. The second phone, she hadn't realized it. I picked it up, not a snoop this time, to confirm. A calendar entry, marked with a red heart. The name, Chris. The man from the hotel. The man from the messages. It was their anniversary, not a meeting, of sleeping together. She'd marked it, like it was sacred, and I realized then, as my stomach dropped and my hands went cold, that this wasn't a fling. It was a second life. One I didn't exist in. I put the phone back in her hand, sat in the dark, waited for dawn, and for the first time, I knew. I was done pretending. It started small. A slip, not something most people would catch. But I wasn't most people anymore. Not to her. She was standing at the stove, stirring a pot of sauce like it was just another Tuesday. She was humming. Something soft. Something cheerful. And then I said it. Didn't you say you had a client dinner tonight? She froze. It was only for half a second, but I saw it. Her hand stopped mid-stir, the spoon resting against the side of the pot. Her back was still to me, but her shoulders stiffened. Then she laughed. "Oh, right," she said quickly, still facing the stove. "It got moved to Thursday. I must have forgotten to mention it." She turned back to smile at me. That same smooth, easy smile she used on neighbors and coworkers. Not the one she used to give me. That one was long gone. "Is that okay?" she added, almost too casually. I nodded. Of course. She went back to stirring, and I went back to watching. Not her hands. Her posture. Her voice. Her tells. There was the first crack. I knew then that she felt it. The shift. The edge of my tone. The way I'd started asking different questions. She knew I wasn't just being curious anymore. I was watching. Listening. Waiting. Dinner was quiet. She talked about work. About the new intern who didn't know how to format reports. About some funny email chain she was on. She smiled at her phone a few times. I asked her what was funny. "Just something my sister sent," she said, flipping the screen down on the table. I nodded. Chewed. Swallowed. She asked about my day. I told her I'd had lunch with Mark. That was a lie. There was no lunch with Mark. But I watched her reaction. Closely. Too closely. She said, "Oh, that's nice. How's he doing?" Another test passed. She wasn't the only one who could lie easily now. That night, she went to bed before me. Said she was tired. Said she had a headache. Another excuse. I waited 10 minutes after the lights went out. Then I walked quietly into the bedroom. She was facing the wall, curled up, breathing slow. I picked up her phone from the charger. Same code. There were no new messages from him. But there was a deleted photo in the recently deleted folder. I restored it. A mirror selfie. New dress. Her hair done. The same dress I hadn't seen her wear in months. She'd sent it to someone, then wiped it clean. I added it to the folder. The next day, she made plans to go out after work. Said she was meeting a friend. I asked who. She blinked. Laura, she said. You remember Laura from my old office, right? I nodded, but I didn't remember Laura. That night, she left around 6:30. I watched her walk to the car, heels clicking on the driveway. Lipstick too red for dinner with a friend. I waited 5 minutes, then opened the tracking app. She wasn't heading downtown. She was heading to the same hotel. Same street. Same man. I closed the app. I didn't need to follow her. Not tonight. I already knew everything. When she came home just before midnight, she tried to be quiet. But I was still up, sitting on the couch, lights dimmed, pretending to read. She smiled when she saw me. Couldn't sleep? I shrugged. Was just finishing a chapter. She walked over and kissed me on the forehead. And for the first time, I didn't pretend to smile back. Just for a second, her smile faltered. The first real crack. The next morning, I didn't ask how dinner went. And she didn't volunteer anything. It was starting to unravel. Not loud, not dramatic, just slowly, quietly. Truth peeling away like wallpaper in a forgotten room. And I was finally ready to stop patching it up. She didn't ask where I was that night. I came home late. Not midnight late, just late enough. She was on the couch watching some crime drama, feet tucked under her, a glass of wine in her hand. She looked up when I walked in, smiled, then paused like she was deciding whether to say something. Then she said nothing. No, where were you? No, everything okay? Just hey. That was how I knew she was scared. Because before, she would have asked. She used to ask when I was 5 minutes late picking up the kids. Used to check in if I didn't answer a text fast enough. But now she was too afraid of the answer. I walked past her and into the kitchen. Opened the fridge. Pretended to look for something. What I really needed was a second to breathe. I could feel her watching me. Waiting. Not sure if she should pretend everything was fine or brace for impact. I saved you some dinner, she said. Thanks. Want me to heat it up? No. I'm good. That was it. She didn't ask why I hadn't called. She didn't ask who I was with. And I didn't offer. The silence sat between us like a loaded gun. She turned back to the TV. Or, at least, she pretended to. I could see her body stiffen every time I moved behind her. That's when I realized the power had shifted. Not because I wanted it to. Not because I planned it. But because truth, once known, doesn't sit quietly in your chest. It radiates. It changes the temperature in every room you walk into. She knew something was different. She just didn't know how much. The next morning, she made coffee first. She never made coffee first. Rough night? She asked. Not really. She nodded, but her eyes didn't meet mine. She kept busy around the house that day. Cleaned the junk drawer. Sorted mail. Did a load of laundry that didn't need doing. I sat on the porch for a while, just watching the sky change. That night, I came to bed later than usual. She was already under the covers, reading something on her phone. She didn't look up. I saw you were quiet today, she said, still scrolling. Yeah. Everything okay? Sure. She hesitated, then nodded. But she didn't push. She didn't want to know. And that's what stuck with me the most. Not that she was hiding something, but that she was now terrified of what I might be hiding. The cracks weren't just in her smile anymore. They were in the rhythm of us. I was quieter. She was gentler. But none of it felt real. It felt like two actors trying to remember their lines after someone changed the script. 2 days later, she left her phone on the kitchen table while she went to the bathroom. I didn't touch it. I didn't need to. She came back and noticed it still there, and for a moment she just stared at it like she was surprised I hadn't picked it up. Can you grab my charger? She asked. I got up and walked to the bedroom. Brought it back. Handed it to her without a word. That was the moment I saw something new in her eyes. Uncertainty. Not guilt. Not panic. Just the dawning realization that maybe, just maybe, I knew more than she thought. She didn't ask, and I didn't tell. That weekend, we took the kids to the park. She was extra affectionate. Took pictures of us. Laughed loudly at every little thing. Touched my arm more than usual. The kids didn't notice. They were happy just to have us both there. But I noticed. I noticed the way she watched me when she thought I wasn't looking. The way her smile wavered just slightly when she looked down at her phone and then quickly turned it over. She was trying to hold something together that she had already broken. And I was letting her, but only for a little longer. I knew where she was going that night. She thought I believed her story. Dinner with coworkers, some farewell drinks for a woman I'd never met. She even put on her safe earrings, the ones she wore when she wanted to look dressed up, but not like she was trying. It was a costume, a performance, one she hoped would make her feel blameless. I watched her tie her hair back in the hallway mirror. "You look nice," I said. She smiled, a little too wide. "Thanks. I won't be too late." "I know," I said. She grabbed her purse and walked out the door. I stood in the hallway for a few more seconds, listening to the sound of her heels on the driveway, the click of the car door, the engine turning over. I didn't move. Not right away. The truth sat with me like a second heartbeat. I already had the app open. I watched her little blue head across town. Not toward the restaurant she'd mentioned in passing, but to the same hotel. The same man. I didn't follow her. I didn't call her. I just let her go. I sat in the kitchen with the lights off. Poured myself a glass of water I never drank. I stared out the window into the dark backyard where our kids used to play. And I waited. Not for her. For the part of me that still cared to fall quiet. I don't know when I started doing it, measuring my silence against her lies, seeing how much I could carry without breaking. But that night, I stopped pretending. I wasn't trying to win her back. I wasn't trying to understand her anymore. I was just watching, documenting, letting her lie, because I wanted to see how far she'd go. She came back just after 11. Not too late, like she promised. She smelled like someone else's cologne. "Hey," she said, tossing her keys into the bowl. "You're still up?" "Yeah." She opened the fridge, took out the wine, poured a glass like it was just another Thursday night. "How was dinner?" I asked. She paused for half a second. "Good," she said. "Kind of boring. Glad I didn't stay long." "Who all was there?" She took a sip, shrugged. "Just some work folks. You wouldn't know them." I nodded slowly. Then I asked the question I knew would reach her bones. "Was Chris there?" She froze. It was quick, barely noticeable, but I saw it. Her hand tightened around the stem of her glass. "No," she said too fast. "Why would he be? I thought you mentioned him last week." She shook her head. "No, I don't think so." Silence. I didn't push. Just let the quiet stretch. And she filled it. "I think I'm just tired. It's been a long week." "Yeah," I said. "It has." She finished her wine in one long sip and went to bed without another word. I sat at the table a little longer. Then I opened the email account where I kept everything. The folder of evidence. Screenshots. Logs. Messages. I added a note. She lied again. But I already knew she would. What surprised me was how little it hurt now. The next morning, she made pancakes, played music in the kitchen, danced a little while she waited for the coffee to brew, like she was trying to rewind time. I sat at the counter and watched her move. She still looked like my wife, still smelled like home, but something inside her was gone. Or maybe something inside me was. I couldn't tell which anymore. She asked if I had plans that weekend. I told her I might meet up with some old friends. She didn't ask who, didn't ask where, didn't even ask if she could come. And that was when I understood this wasn't a marriage anymore. It was a stage play, two people walking through scenes they didn't believe in. I cleaned my plate, rinsed it in the sink, and kissed her cheek before heading out the door. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. She was already at the table when I came in. Sunlight through the kitchen window hit her just right. Her hair glowing gold at the edges. Her eyes scanning her phone like nothing in the world was wrong. And I watched her like a stranger would. From the doorway. Silent. She looked up, caught my eye, and smiled. But that morning, for the first time, I saw it for what it was, muscle memory. Not love. Not relief. Just habit. "Morning," she said. "Morning." I sat across from her. She put down her phone and slid a plate toward me. Eggs. Toast. A little jam on the side. My favorite. We ate in near silence, the kind where the clink of a fork sounds too loud. She cleared her throat once, asked if I was okay. I said yes. She nodded, eyes darting toward her phone again. Then she reached for her coffee and paused. "I've been thinking," she said, voice carefully light. "We should take a weekend. Just us. No phones. Get away somewhere." It came out rehearsed, like she practiced it in the mirror. "Yeah," I said. She smiled. "Yeah, I mean, we've both been tired. It can help. Reset things. Reset." I watched her try to reach me with that word, like it was some magic button we could press to forget everything. The problem was, I didn't want to reset. I wanted honesty. I wanted to see if she'd give it to me. "That sound good," I said. "Where were you thinking?" She blinked, surprised I didn't push back. I don't know. Somewhere quiet. Maybe a cabin. Sure. Her relief was visible, like a weight had lifted. But mine hadn't, because I saw the way she looked through me now, not into me. Like I was a piece of furniture she was trying to rearrange. She didn't ask why I wasn't smiling. Didn't ask why I hadn't touched her in a week. Didn't ask where I went on my drives, or who I talked to when I left the house without explanation. She didn't ask because deep down she knew. She just wasn't ready to hear it. Later that afternoon, she sent me a link to a rental cabin. Said it looked cute. I clicked the link, looked through the photos. Trees, fire pit, big wooden deck, one bed. I told her to book it, but in my mind, I was already wondering if it would be the place where I finally said it. That night, she leaned on my shoulder while we watched a movie. Something light, something forgettable. Her head was warm, familiar, but my chest didn't react. I didn't put my arm around her. I didn't kiss her hair. I just sat there and let her pretend we were okay. Because when someone's already broken something, the hardest part isn't the crack. It's watching them pretend it's still whole. The next morning, she came into the bathroom while I was shaving, wrapped her arms around me from behind, her cheek against my back. "You've been quiet lately," she said into my shoulder. I didn't answer right away. She waited. "I've been thinking," I finally said. She didn't move. "What about us?" She pulled back slightly. "In a good way?" I looked at her reflection in the mirror. She was trying to read my face, but I didn't give her anything. "Still thinking," I said. She nodded. "Okay." But she didn't ask what that meant. She didn't ask what I knew. She didn't ask who Chris was. She didn't ask if I still loved her. She didn't ask because she didn't want the answer. And I wasn't going to give it freely. Not yet. Because when someone finally looks through you instead of at you, the only thing left to do is show them what they missed. It was colder than we expected. The trees stood bare and silent around the cabin, like they were holding their breath. The air smelled like pine and smoke, and the wind whistled low through the trees, as if it knew what we were carrying up that gravel path. She smiled when we pulled up, told me it looked just like the pictures. I nodded, said it was nice. We unpacked in silence, each of us carrying our own weight. Inside it was warm, wood-paneled walls, a small fireplace already stacked with kindling, a worn but cozy couch. She touched the edge of the counter like she was testing if it was real. "This is perfect," she said. I nodded again. "Yeah." She walked to the window and looked out at the trees. Her arms crossed, not because she was cold, but because she didn't know what to do with her hands. We didn't say much that night. We made pasta, opened a bottle of wine. She tried to play a game, cards or charades or something that required pretending we were still playful. I humored her for 20 minutes, then told her I was tired. She said, "Me too," and we both knew it wasn't about sleep. The bed was soft, but too small. Her side felt miles away. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, the sound of her breathing strangely unfamiliar, like she'd never exhaled next to me before. In the morning, she made pancakes. Again, always with the pancakes lately. She was trying to rebuild routine, trying to pretend love was muscle memory too. We took a walk after breakfast. The trail behind the cabin wound through tall trees and scattered leaves. She reached for my hand. I let her, but it didn't feel like before. Her hand was warm, yes. Familiar, yes. But the connection, the why of the touch, it was different. She talked about the trees, the quiet, how she could see us buying a place like this someday. I nodded, let her dream out loud. She wanted to believe we were healing. But we hadn't even spoken the wound. That night, we lit a fire. She curled up against me, the blanket around our legs, the flames casting soft light across her face. "I missed this," she whispered. I didn't respond. She tilted her head up to look at me, her eyes searching, soft, scared. "I know I haven't been easy lately," she said. "I know I've been distant, but I want to fix things. I really do." Her voice cracked on the last sentence. And for a second, I saw the girl I married. Not the woman who had lied, but the girl who used to kiss me like it meant something. Who used to cry in my arms over books and dreams and fears she didn't share with anyone else. "I want that too," I said, but I didn't say what I really meant. I want the truth. We sat in silence for a while. Her hand slid under the blanket, found mine. She held it tightly, like it might slip away if she didn't squeeze hard enough. And I let her, because even now, after everything, there was a part of me that still needed to feel wanted, even if it was by someone who had betrayed me. Later that night, after she'd gone to bed, I stood outside on the deck. Cold wind, stars sharp in the black sky. I checked the folder on my phone, opened one of the screenshots. Her message to him. I wish I could wake up next to you in a place like this. Dated 6 weeks ago. I closed the phone and leaned against the railing. Eyes burning. Chest hollow. She was in that bed right now. In the place she once wanted to share with him. Pretending it was ours. I went inside, brushed my teeth, got into bed next to her. She turned in her sleep and rested a hand on my chest. And I laid there, wondering how long I could keep pretending. The morning we left the cabin, everything was quiet. She was packing slowly, folding sweaters like she thought if she took long enough, something would change. That I'd soften, that we'd forget why we were really here. But my mind was already made up. I sat on the edge of the bed and watched her. Her hands trembled just enough for me to notice. That told me she knew. Maybe not what I would say, but that it was coming. I know about him, I said. She stopped folding. Didn't look at me. Just let the sweater rest on her lap. How long have you known? She whispered. Long enough to watch you lie to my face more times than I can count. Silence. I ended it, she said after a while. Before we came here. You ended it the way an addict says they're done after a final hit. She flinched. I didn't mean for her to go that far. But it did. Her eyes met mine. Vet. Scared. Not sorry. Not really, just caught in the truth. Do you love him? No, she said. But he made me feel. Don't. I cut her off. Don't give me that. You had someone who loved you. Someone who was still showing up, even when it was hard. I know, she whispered. I stood. You know what hurts most? I asked. That I wanted to believe we could make it through anything. And all the while, you were checking out. I'm sorry. I know you are. But not enough to stop it before you crossed the line. Not enough to tell me the truth before I had to find it myself. She started crying, softly. No drama. Just the kind of quiet breakdown that looks like shame. Are you leaving? I'm already gone. She reached for my hand, but I stepped back. And that was the moment it was really over. For months later, the divorce was final. The papers were signed in silence. She cried. I didn't. Not anymore. I moved into a small place on the other side of town. Nothing special. Just quiet. Clean. My own. I put away the old photos. Not out of bitterness, but because I didn't want to live in a museum of what used to be. The kids adjusted. Slowly. They asked questions. I gave answers. Honest ones. Age-appropriate, but real. And then came the message. From him. Chris. Out of nowhere. No subject line. Just a few lines. You didn't deserve it. I am sorry. For everything. I stared at the screen for a long time. I never replied. Some apologies come too late to matter. A year later, I saw her again. Same grocery store where I first saw the kiss. Like a loop had closed. She looked older. Tired in a way makeup couldn't hide. Alone. She smiled when she saw me. I nodded. Kept walking. I didn't stop. Not out of anger. Out of peace. Because I didn't need another conversation. I didn't need to reopen a wound I'd already survived. I made it. That's the ending. Not with revenge. Not with rage. But with a quiet, honest life that she no longer gets to be part of. And that's the part one never expected. That healing wouldn't feel like justice. It would feel like freedom.